Well, the interesting thing is up until now, at least up until probably last weekend, the opposition had decided to put aside its differences with Benjamin Netanyahu's government in the interest of national unity in the fight against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. That is coming to an end as frustration grows amongst opposition leaders and members of the opposition about what they perceive as insufficient effort on the part of this government to get the hostages returned. They believe that the government is prioritizing a military victory over the return of the hostages, and that's why the hostages, at least many of them, 129, are still being held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Last weekend was the first weekend where there was a big turnout, a big demonstration. Tens of thousands came to Jerusalem, bringing together various different strands of the opposition. And then yesterday, Saturday, there was a very big demonstration, some saying as many as 100,000 people drawn from all across Israel in Tel Aviv to demand again that the government devote more effort, more energy to bringing home the hostages. And again, today we're seeing it in Jerusalem, calling on the government to increase its mandate for its negotiators in the talks that are being held, mediated through Qatar and Egypt and the United States to get the hostages home. And I suppose you mentioned just a moment or two ago the decision of the Israelis to withdraw the 98th Division from the Gaza Strip. That's about 10,000 soldiers. That may have some influence on the talks that are currently being held tonight in Cairo, involving top leaders from Qatar, the United States, Egypt, Israel, and a delegation from Hamas. The fact that Israel has decided to withdraw so many troops, which is one of the demands of Hamas, may give a little boost to the talks.
Well, let's talk about those ceasefire talks, Rob, because obviously you're mentioning all of this pressure that's mounting against Benjamin Netanyahu. And one of the key tenets of those ceasefire talks, of course, will be the hostage release. Already 34 hostages have been confirmed to have been killed. And obviously, Benjamin Netanyahu has put all of his efforts behind the fact that the hostage release is crucial to any ceasefire. But what happens if there is no ceasefire? What happens if Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't manage to retrieve those hostages?
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu has made it very clear what he believes is the correct approach to this situation. That is to mount the pressure militarily on Hamas until Hamas breaks, collapses, and releases the hostages, because there's no other way forward for it. A lot of people, probably a majority of people in Israel at the moment, believe that that's not the correct way forward. It's not that they don't want the war to be pursued by the Israeli government and the Israeli armed forces against Hamas. They just think that the priorities should be slightly different and that more energy should be given to getting the hostages home. The pressure inside Israel is growing, as I suggested just a moment or two ago, through the demonstrations that we've seen picking up over the last couple of weeks or so. Externally, too, we've seen the United States and others from the European Union and further afield putting pressure on the Israeli government as well. So the fact that there is so much external pressure, particularly from the United States, with Joe Biden saying he wanted an immediate ceasefire just a few days ago, plus that internal pressure, there's no doubt that the Israeli government is feeling that it's under a lot of pressure at the moment to, first of all, give greater authority to its negotiating teams in the talks mediated with Hamas, but also to start moving forward and making sure that some of the hostages come home as soon as possible. The problem, I suppose, for the Israeli government at the moment is Hamas doesn't seem to be budging on its three key demands: for Israel to withdraw all its troops, not just some, all of its troops from the Gaza Strip, for a long-lasting, for a full ceasefire, and for all those who've been forced from their homes in northern Gaza to be allowed home. As far as Israel is concerned, those demands are unacceptable. Benjamin Netanyahu called them delusional.